All right, guys, good morning. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Make sure you have out notebooks, pencils, calculators, and then if you have graphing paper or any of those graph worksheets that I put on Google Classroom, make sure you have those out as well in case you want to practice some graphing. All right, so we have a graph. We've got a line on the graph, and we want to figure out the slope. We talked about the change in rise over the change in run is going to give us slope. So we did talk about that on Monday and a little bit more yesterday. So we also talked about on Monday, we talked about slope types. So a positive slope, a negative slope, a zero slope, and an undefined slope. So a line that goes up and down straight is going to be undefined. So those are our four slope types. Already looking at this one, it's going down from left to right. So that's going to be a negative slope. So whatever our slope is should be a negative number. Okay, so I'm going to do my rise. So we're talking about the y. So the change in y is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going down 6. So the change is -6, and then we're going over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So -6 over 6. So our rise over our run is -6 over 6, and we can put that into simpler terms by taking -6 divided by 6. Good Maya, good Ari, is going to be -1. So our slope is going to be -1 for this first one. All right. Any questions about this? Remember, you guys can feel free to unmute yourselves if you have questions, but this is a review of what we talked about on Monday. All right, so, and I've got a bunch of stuff going on all over the screen. I'll move this. All right, so far this week, we've talked about slope using rise over run, and we talked about getting slope from 2 points. So yesterday we talked about that y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So how to calculate slope from a point. So now we're going to work on writing equations. So our equation solving unit is going to come in handy today. But we're not actually really solving for anything. We're just kind of creating equations. I'm gonna see if I can make this chat box a little bit smaller. Maybe, no, that's okay. All right, so this is a proportional relationship, and I know right here, it looks like it might not be going through the origin, but for our sake, we're just gonna say, whoops, we're just gonna say that it's gonna go through the origin. So for this one, we're gonna say, it's going through 0, 0. And if you guys remember when we talked about a proportional relationship 2 weeks ago, a proportional relationship is a straight line, and this is pretty straight, and it goes through 0, 0. That is a proportional relationship. So remember, our equation format for a proportional relationship is y equals kx, because remember, to find the constant of proportionality, we do k equals y divided by x, and then to put it into a equation, we're going to do y equals kx. So k will be our slope in this case. So what is the equation for this line? So basically, all we need to do is use what we already know how to do. We're going to find, so we could do a few things. We could pick a point and take y divided by x, or we could use our change in y over change in x. So I'm going to stick to this part right here. So we're going to do what we did in our do now. So already I can tell it's a positive line, it's going up, so our slope should be positive. We're gonna go up 1, 2, 3. So +3, and then we're going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 over 5. So we're rising 3 and we're running 5. That's what that means. So change in y over change in x. And remember, that's what those triangles mean. That's something you'll see in high school, those triangles. That just means change. So our slope is going to be 3 divided by 5, or 3/5. We can go ahead and simplify that and put 0.6. So our slope is 0.6. So to put that into this equation format, we're going to do y equals kx, remember? And we're going to just, for this sake, we're going to say that k is going to be our slope. So y equals 0.6x. In this formula, or this equation, all this means is we could take any x value and plug it in. So we could take 0.6 times any x value and immediately get our y value. Good, Maya. All right, so I just kind of want you to keep this in mind. So this is a proportional relationship. Remember, proportional relationships They are straight lines and running through the 0, 0 point on a graph. So 0, 0 at the origin. So today we're going to talk about the difference between a proportional relationship and a non-proportional relationship. So a proportional relationship is typically set up like y equals kx. So that ratio between y and x, that constant of proportionality is kind of acts as our slope. And then we've got y equals kx. For this one, for a non-proportional equation, go ahead and get this written down. So this is called slope-intercept form. So we've got y equals mx plus b. Now it's really important to know what each of these mean. So y is just going to be our y value. I'm going to write it down, is going to be our slope. X is going to be an x value. And then b, this is important, this is the new part, is going to be the y intercept. Oh gosh, intercept. I know it's hard to write on this. So make sure you have y equals ms. It's okay, Keisha. Make sure you have y equals mx plus b written down. Let me make sure I have everybody down for attendance too while you guys write down this equation. All right, so the difference between these, and I'm going to kind of show you here. So notice that this line right here is not going through the origin. It's a straight line, but it's not going through the origin, which means it is not a proportional relationship. So for non-proportional relationships, we're going to use this y equals mx plus b formula. So we're still going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to find our rise or over our run to calculate slope. So we're going to find the change in y. And you guys kind of know how to do this now. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to run 1, 2, 3. So 5 over 3. So what is that simplified? Good. So it's about 1.6, 1.67, something like that. So that's going to be our slope. So we want to plug in all of our information into this formula. So what is the equation for this line? We've got y equals, remember m is our slope. So m is our slope. So m is going to be 1.67 x, because we don't know, this is, and we're writing an equation that would work for any point. And then that b, that y-intercept, all this means is we want to know where this line intersects the y-axis. So I know we don't know for sure, it's kind of not clear, but I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that looks like 5 in the third, but we'll just kind of say 5 for right now, because I kind of want you guys to get the idea more than the accuracy, and we'll talk about how to write these nice and accurately in the future. But so we're going to do minus 5. So this would be the equation for a line like this that doesn't, that isn't proportional. So we're going to find the slope. So we found the slope, and then we plug it into our y equals mx plus b formula. So y equals 1.67x minus 5. That's what this graph is saying. That's what this line equation is going to be. Are there any questions about this? This is kind of hard for some people to wrap their brain around, so we'll practice some. All right, so go ahead and look at this one, and I'm keeping my eye on the chat to see if there's anything that you guys need or any questions that you have. So go ahead and try and think about this the way that I just showed you. So use your y equals mx plus b formula. We want to find m is going to be our slope. So go ahead and find the slope. You guys did a really great job with that on Monday. So I feel pretty confident, and that's a negative slope. So we should have a negative number for our slope. So go ahead and try and work on that for a minute, and then work on coming up with an equation. All right, guys, so rise over run. You know, it's a negative slope, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure we remember that when we get our slope so that we can check ourselves. We're gonna figure out the change in y. So we're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going down, so that's a -8. And then we're gonna go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So -8 over 6. What's our slope for that? So if we simplify -8 divided by 6, so go ahead and enter it in the chat when you get it. Good, so -8 divided by 6 gives us -1.3. So it's so not 1/3, but 1.3. So make sure we're good. So make sure we're entering that in your calculator. And if you guys have any questions on how to enter that in your calculator, make sure you're letting me know. Remember the negative button's right next to your decimal point if you're using one of these calculators. All right, so we've got -1.3 as our slope. So we're gonna plug that number in for our slope. So y equals -1.3, and then plus b, that's going to be where our line intersects with the y-axis. Let me move this up. So it looks like we're going to go up 1, not quite 2. So I would say about 1 2/3. And the reason I'm saying that is because it looks like a little bit over a half. So I'm going to say 1 2/3. So y equals 1/3 x plus 1 2/3. And that's just an estimate right now. But really the main takeaway I want you guys to have today is how to find slope, how to put slope into this formula, y equals mx plus b, and then understand that plus b is giving us the where the line intersects the y-axis. So those are should be your big takeaways from today. Are there any questions about this right now? All right. All right, so this one's a little bit different because it doesn't have our little rise over run dots on it, but we can still figure like our little dashed line on it, but we can still find the slope, remember? So we need to find 2 points that intersect our line that also intersect x and y axis at a perpendicular section, but what I mean by that is this is not a good spot to put a dot, and that's because that's not where, I'm trying, guys, of course. 1 second. So that's because this is not where x and y axis meet. We could put a point here because the x and y axis meet there and they meet on, excuse me, on our line. And then I can also put a point here because it also meets right there. And you can pick any of these other points if you wanted to, any of the points where the line meets the x and y axis. But for right now, I'm just going to pick my 2 original ones. I'm going to pick, let's go back. I'm going to pick these 2. So I've got rise over run. If I'm going to do rise over run, this is a negative slope. So I already know that I'm going to have a negative slope. My rise, I'm going to go down 1, 2. So that's going to be -2. And then I'm going to run 1. So -2 over 1, which is just what? -2 divided by 1. It's just -2, right? Good. So our slope is going to be -2. We're going to plug that slope in for m because m is going to be our slope, which is our change in rise over change in run. So our line is going to be y equals -2 x. And then we're looking at our, I'm going to erase some of this because it's kind of hard to see. we're going to look at where this line intersects the y-axis. So it looks like it is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it intersects at +4. So y equals -2x plus 4. So that's how we're going to find something like that. And I know we've had a lot of practice with how to find the rise over run when they give us those dots, but I want to make sure that you guys understand that sometimes you're going to have to place the dots on the graph and figure out the slope. So is it how much is the change in rise divided by the change in run? All right, so that's how we solve something like that. It's a little bit different just because we had to do that part ourselves, but same thing, we plug in that slope for m. So are there any questions about that? All right, so for this one, we've got a lot of stuff going on that I wanted to show you. So equation format is still going to be y equals mx plus b. This time though, we've got points. So this is what we did yesterday. So if you guys remember, to find slope from points, we're going to take y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and write these 2 points down. I'm going to give you a few minutes to figure out the slope, and then we'll talk about how to put that in the equation. So go ahead and try and figure out what our slope is. Remember, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. All right, guys, so if you think you have the slope, go ahead and enter it in the chat. So I'm seeing a few different answers, but looks like everybody agrees that it's negative. I'm going to do my highlighting that I did yesterday. I know I showed you guys. So if we're thinking about y2 minus, so y2 and x2 are going to be the same point. So this is going to be, let me try and show you guys what I mean. So this is going to be, we'll make this 0.2 and this 0.1. So remember, y2 minus y1 doesn't mean that y is 2. It means the y value in 0.2 minus the y value in 0.1. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight. So I'm going to highlight my y values and I'm going to highlight my x values. And I think I did this wrong down here. Let me see. There we go. All right, so we're going to take y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So for this one, you guys remember, Some people forget this. We've got x, y in our points. So that's where we get those. So I'm going to take y2, which is going to be right here. So the y value in the second point minus y1, so minus -4, divided by x2, -3, minus x1, so minus -1. Remember when I told you guys yesterday that when you subtract, or Monday maybe, I don't even remember, I think it was yesterday, when you subtract a negative number, that's basically like adding. So 2 minus a -4 is the same thing as adding it, and you can check that in your calculator if you want, but 2 minus a -4 is going to be +6, and then -3, oh, I just realized I didn't write a 1 in there. So -3 minus a -1 is going to be -3 plus 1, so that's going to be -2. So 6 divided by -2 is going to give us -3. So that's how we solve for slope in this case. So this is our slope, -3. We want to write our equation. One thing that we want to do though is, and we could have taken this a different route. I put a graph down here for us because I want to kind of show you guys how they're all connected. Equations, graphing, all points, tables, everything's all connected. So I'm going to go ahead and graph point 2. I'll graph point 2 in red. So excuse me, -3, 2. So -3, 2, we go 1, 2, 3, and then +2. So we're going to go right here is point 1, and then -1, -4. So -1, and then -1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be our points. So this is kind of what I mean when I'm saying that you guys can use this to your advantage. It's really hard doing this on a laptop. I'm gonna try though. So all right, so I tried to make it nice and straight. And we can actually see, I'll try and do it in I'll use a highlighter color to do this. So remember it's a negative slope. We came up with our slope being -3. So, and that's the same thing as saying -3 over 1. So if we're gonna rise or go down 1, 2, 3, go over 1. Then go down 1, 2, 3, go over 1. 1, 2, 3, go over 1. Oops. 1, 2, 3, go over 1. Why won't it listen to me? That's okay. All right, so this is all connected. The slope, the points, the graphing, everything's all connected. So if you didn't want to use this formula, if you ever see 2 points and you're like, I'm not sure how to, I don't remember that formula exactly, you can graph it and do it this way. That just kind of creates more room for error, but so like I said, there's a ton of ways to solve this. You can either use this formula or you can graph it. But I want to write an equation for this line. So we're going to use the y equals mx plus b formula. So we know that y equals, our m is our slope. So our m, you guys all did a good job and you found -3x. And then we want to figure out what our y-intercept is. So we're going to go down and look at our graph. And it looks like it's going to intersect. So if we go down 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, it's going to intersect at -7. So y equals -3x minus 7. So that's going to be how we write an equation for something like that. All right. Any questions about today? Anything we did today? Just a reminder, let me go to Google Classroom. No questions, no questions, okay. Go to your classwork. Remember to do these for your writing across curriculums. So So for that writing assignment, it's pretty short. It's just asking you to reflect about yourself and then talk about, it's kind of like how, what do you want to be when you grow up and how can you use math in your future career, which I promise you can and do it in any career. Don't do one sentence. It gives you the criteria when you click on it. It says the first word in the paragraph needs to be indented, capital letters, punctuation, topic sentence, all of that. And it needs to have 5 to 7 sentences. You guys are on laptops too, so it's actually should hopefully be easier for you guys. So don't be just typing in one sentence. And you guys can resubmit this if you already have and you didn't do that. Also, exit tickets should be done from yesterday, but it's still open. So just make sure that you get that done. You should be, and I think you guys are actually in pretty good shape for your quiz 4 for your slope quiz. I think you guys could probably take it today, but if you want to wait till tomorrow after our lesson and make sure, because tomorrow we're going to be kind of doing a review of everything we've talked about this week and kind of applying it a little bit more. But so that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. But if you feel comfortable with everything we've done this week, I think you guys should be okay with the slope quiz. But again, that is up to you. It does need to be done by Sunday though. All right, so I typically like to leave the last few minutes open for questions. I'm going to stop recording.